So let me tell you what's happening with the Boston Celtics. You know, the reigning defending NBA champions. They've lost 3 of 5, and all 3 of those losses have come by double digits. Now, it's one thing to lose by double digits on the road at the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's another thing to lose by double digits to the surging Sacramento Kings, who are playing a lot better since they fired Mike Brown and made Doug Christie the interim head coach. Losing by double digits, though, on the road at the Toronto Raptors, who are terrible and kind of outwardly tanking, is something else entirely. And the Celtics now, 7-7 in their last 14 games, and the defense has been putrid for quite some time. And you get, after losses like this and stretches like this, amazing quotes in post-game press conferences and media availability. How about this pearl from Kristaps Porzingis? Quote, "We played with no personality. It was a weak performance." Joe Mazzulla basically said the same thing, except it was much more boring because Joe Mazzulla is extremely boring. And we love him for that. I'm being serious. We like that about Joe Mazzulla. He basically said the same stuff, except it wasn't interesting at all, the way that Kristaps Porzingis said it. So again, it's a bad stretch for the Celtics. And in front of them in the Eastern Conference standings is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland's 6.5 games ahead of the Celtics right now. 6.5! Does anyone think the Celtics are catching the Cavs for the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference right now? Doesn't feel likely to me. And also, and not that it matters come playoff time, but it's a little interesting, right? The Celtics were only 2 games up on the Knicks for the 2 seed in the East. The Knicks are only 2 games back of the 2 seed. The Knicks are currently occupying the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. And yet, despite all of this, despite how poorly the Celtics have played, despite the quotes, literally the players on the team telling you that our effort is weak right now, the price hasn't changed to win the NBA championship. Boston is still the favorite at plus 240 to win the title. And I agree. You're never going to see title odds move off of a December, January losing streak. A really smart person once said that to me. It was Ken Barkley on the show. And I listen when people smart like Femi Abebefe and Ken Barkley say things on the show. So losing games at going 7-7 in a 14-game stretch in December into January is not going to put a dent in the tie. Like Jason Tatum getting hurt would do that. If they lost 7 games in a row now, then you'd start to see the price move. Otherwise, I think it makes a lot of sense for the Celtics to still be the favorite to win the NBA championship. And as of right now, at this moment in time, on Thursday, January the 16th, I still feel like Boston's going to win the title. Still feel like they're going to win the championship. Despite 6.5 games out of the 1 seed in the East, doesn't matter to me. I feel like Cleveland's upside at the moment is to lose Game 7 at home in the Eastern Conference Final to Boston. But I do think this is a situation now, hashtag worth monitoring for the Celtics. Is this going to get worse? Are they going to keep losing games? Or is it possible, and I actually think this is likely, maybe they've probably just hit a stretch in the schedule where it's hard to stay motivated. After buzzsawing through last season, they play great to start this season, and they're just in a little bit of a lull right now. It's human nature. It's really hard unless you've got the super team of all super teams. Here's Kevin Durant with Golden State, to just buzz through multiple seasons. So I think this is totally explainable. And I'm going to take this in another direction with the Celtics, because there's a lot of negative right now with Boston. The Celtics' next game is tomorrow night, Friday night, against the Orlando Magic. And you'll remember one of the Celtics' losses in their 7-7 stretch was against Orlando. Magic won that game 108-104 in what was an exceptionally chippy and physical game. And you'd have to imagine that the Celtics, whether they play with personality or not, whether they can't get up for a game on a Wednesday night in Toronto in mid-January, whether that's the case, you would imagine that they're going to come out and want to, especially off the loss last night where the players and coaches are all wearing it. I think they come out guns blazing tomorrow night against the Orlando Magic. So that's just a one-game opinion. And even if they lose tomorrow night against Orlando, they don't cover the spread, whatever, I'm still going to feel like the Celtics are going to win the NBA championship. But again, a month from now, 6 weeks from now, if we're still saying, man, the team's not playing great, they're not defending, it's a hashtag bad brew in Boston, then we could probably start talking about Oklahoma City, winning a championship, especially once Chet Holmgren comes back. We can start talking about Dallas maybe winning a title when Luka and Kyrie come back. We could talk about the Cavs maybe winning the Eastern Conference. Femi's hotter on my Knicks than I am, yet I've got the Knicks thing over my right shoulder here in my background. I don't think the Knicks can get there. Femi does. We can start to have those conversations. We're not there yet, in my estimation, with the Celtics to seriously have them. But if things keep up like this, we will be. In my best Yoda voice from The Empire Strikes Back as I paraphrase, we will be. Femi, how do you feel about the Boston Celtics right now, after in their recent swoon and losing last night for the Raptors and spinning things forward?
Yeah, they're just bored. The Boston Celtics are just bored. Like, it's middle of January. I think what you're going to get from Boston going forward is that in the marquee games, like maybe tomorrow night when they play Orlando, or on MLK Day Monday when they visit the Golden State Warriors and people are off, so people are watching that game, I think you'll get much better efforts from Boston there. But if they're playing like a lackluster team, like in this instance last night, Toronto on League Pass, like you're just going to get like a C minus, maybe even D plus effort from the Celtics. And in some instances, maybe that's good enough to like scrape by in a victory. Last night, Toronto played one of their best games of the season, so it wasn't good enough. But I think that like, there's no panic in Boston. I know the fans are like, oh my gosh, we're 28-12 and we only lost like 16 games last year or something like that, or 18 games. It was a ridiculous regular season, so they're not used to this in the Missoula era. But this is kind of what champions do in the NBA. Like you see this happen where you get out of Christmas and you get into a lull and probably not going to start locking in until around trade deadline time and then post-March, and then we're off to the playoffs. And that's when you'll see the Boston Celtics be like the best team in the Eastern Conference.
So your level of concern with Boston very low. You'd say, do you agree with me? We're like you're like worth monitoring, obviously, but you don't even think that's going to be the case.
I honestly, on a scale of like 1 to 10, I'm like at a 1 in terms of level of concern. Like I'm not concerned whatsoever. How I thought about Boston going in is out.
2.5.
Yeah, I don't think like from a health. I mean, Porzingis is healthy. The only thing that would make me concerned is that if they get like injured, that's when it's like okay,
fair.
Maybe they can't like get through that way. But who do you think? Because it sounds like you like Cleveland as a team that could knock off Boston. Because Cleveland, who do you like more, Cleveland or New York, to knock off the Celtics in a 7-game series?
I guess Cleveland, because Cleveland would have home court. I guess that's the answer. Because the Cavs would have home court in the series and the Knicks wouldn't right now. Like Game 7, if they played, would be in Boston. But if all things are equal, like on a neutral, probably the Knicks.
I still think, even with the home court, I still think the Knicks. Like, I don't think Cleveland can beat them in a 7-game series.
Because like we're going to start doing a lot more of this on the show, and I do want you to sell me. I do want that. But why? Because like you are
New York, go.
I mean, dude, I can't tell you how much joy this would bring me if this all happened. I want it to happen. Why are you so bullish in it happening? Like, and just to be clear, Femi's not like 10 toes down saying the Knicks are going to win the Eastern Conference. But who would you pick the Knicks to win the East right now, or would you take Boston?
I would pick Boston right now. I just think New York has the ceiling to do it, and I don't think Cleveland has the ceiling to do it. And I love the Knicks because, like, look at the combination, the duo of Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, Towns, for as much flack as he's gotten in his career, he's playing like a top 6 player right now. I don't know if everyone's paying attention. Towns has been awesome. He has been awesome. And then Brunson, like that combination together in the playoffs, like half court, game slows down. They're going to be efficient offensively. And then you have the defensive guys as well, like with Anunoby and Bridges. And if you ever get Mitchell Robinson back, like you have a core that can, like they gave the Knicks problems like last year. And 2 years ago, they would give the Knicks problems. Now you have a more talented team. Like I do think New York can actually go toe-to-toe with this team because they have guys who have been in big-time playoff series. Cleveland, like Donovan Mitchell's probably the guy that's been in like the biggest play. Like what was that, like a conference semifinal in Utah? Like when Donovan Mitchell went to, maybe they went to the Western Conference Finals one of the years.
And they lost to the Nuggets. They lost to, that's the bubble. Is that the bubble year where they lost to when Mike Conley missed the shot in Game 7?
Yeah, but when Murray was going off, they lost to Denver in the bubble. They lost to the Clippers the year after the bubble when the Clippers had no Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and those guys beat them. And that's when like Gobert like got played off the floor or whatever, and everybody made fun of him. Like Terrence Mann's like running circles around Rudy Gobert. But they don't have a guy that's been there, done that. Now, if you're a Cleveland backer, you might throw it in my face and say, well, Evan Mobley's leveled up. And he has leveled up. Like Evan Mobley looks like an all NBA guy, like one of the best defensive players in the league. And now he's shooting threes. He's doing things on offense that he was not doing previously in his career, but we've just never seen it in the playoffs. That's my problem. And like the NBA, as we've talked about on the show early on in the season, it is a ladder. Like you go through the progressions of going through the postseason. You go there, you go to the conference semifinals, you get clipped. Maybe then you go to the conference finals and you get clipped. And then at that point is when you get to the NBA finals. Cleveland still feels like they're early on in this progression to where the Knicks have the veteran guys. Like Cat was in the conference finals last year. Like Brunson at least has been in the semifinals. Like Thibodeau has been into the conference finals. Like these guys have been deep into the playoffs, and I think that they could put a scare into the Boston Celtics.
Speaking of ladders, by the way, great job by Femi climbing the Peyton Pritchard ladders, because the Celtics might have lost the game.
We won the war.
But we won the war here with Femi climbing the ladders on all the Peyton Pritchard stuff last night.